Rebel religion in the news.
All right, good day, everybody. Welcome. Rebel Religion in the News. I'm Jerry O'Lennon, along with Pastor Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship and Pastor Tim Rule of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church. Good morning.
Hey,
Morning.
good morning.
Morning.
Okay, let's get right to it. Jesus-shaped cloud floats above the Philippines Basilica, stuns churchgoers. Okay. Let's get right to it. Is it a true apparition? Is it you know, I looked at it, I can see what it looks like Jesus.
Yeah.
But there have been others that really do kind of look like Jesus, or some of them, the Mother Mary. And so let's talk about that. What do we make of this? Is this a sign from God? Is it just a pure coincidence? Or maybe it's a sign from Satan? Maybe he's trying to trick us. Who knows? Let's open it up for discussion. Do you buy these things?
Here we go. Do I buy these things? Well, I saw the photo, as real as a photo could be on the internet, and it showed a figure at the end of a straight level cloud that looked like a person in a robe. So
With his arm out.
exactly, could that be Moses? Could it be Joshua? Could it be Peter? Could it be Jesus? But if we're going to assume that that's deity, then everyone goes right to Jesus.
Yeah.
I think the first takeaway I would say about that is people are looking for a sign of hope.
Yeah.
And they're looking for it. So that's him. That's him. He's got his arms open. He's going to bless us. And I think that's good.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. So if you see something that reminds you of Christ or an epiphany of Christ that say, man, he's close to me, I would say go for it. I've had people tell me a lot of stories about visions or whatever. I've never had one. I've never seen a 900-foot Jesus. Nothing like that. But I'm sure those are encouraging. So I don't downplay it. I just say go for it. Just go for it.
That's a good point. I mean, if it's something positive and people, look at Jesus, focus on Jesus, even if they're an atheist that's sitting there,
Sure.
An agnostic, going, "Wow, that's Jesus. Maybe
there is
he's
something to
real."
maybe there is
and
something
then he
to this
searches
thing.
for
Yeah.
God and he reads the Bible. He comes to faith. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I'm totally all for that. Now here's the crazy part about it. If you search for images of Christ on your web browser, you're going to find a lot of things. And this is a story I saw a few years ago. A woman made a piece of toast.
I saw this too.
Yeah, you saw it. And she pulled the toast out, was just about to butter it, and she looked at it and she says, "That looks a lot like Jesus." So apparently, she made toast, and there was, I saw it. You could laugh, Jesus. That looks like Jesus. Or
People bought that type of bread from then on.
yeah, it's like, and then I've seen the stories of images in the clouds or images in the sand and things like that, or the ocean waves, and I'm agreeing with you. I mean, if it brings attention to Jesus and people look for the truth, I'm all for it. I guess I'm okay.
I think you talked me into it. I came into this discussion thinking it's kind of silly, and I think you've convinced me. Yeah, if it's something that leads you closer to Jesus, yeah, go with it.
But then I've played that game with my kids, on the grass, looking over the cloud. I see a bunny. Look, there's an alligator about to eat a duck.
Sure. You implant that mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a story, true story, probably 20 years ago. He was a well digger in our town, very well known. The older one, and just a robust guy, things like that. He said, "Pastor, I need to tell the story real quick." He said, "I woke up in the middle of the night. My room was pitch black, and it started like snowflakes, but they're as bright as they could be, and they covered my blanket. It was the most surreal moment I've ever had, and my room just glowed." He goes, "What are you thinking about that?" I said, "Well, if you saw that, it had to be something." I mean, he would not make a joke about this. So maybe God does allow our minds to see something, give them hope, things like that. I've never had it, but when someone says they do, I'm good. Man,
maybe it's because God recognizes that you don't need that affirmation, that your faith is so strong that
I believe the book.
We can leave Pastor Rule's good to go. I don't have to waste my time on him. Not that God is subject to time, but I'm not gonna spend the energy with Pastor Rule. I think maybe Jerry over here, he needs some divine intervention.
Has to be a big image.
We need a big apparition for this guy. Yeah, that could be.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm more open to these type of stories where, I mean, I've seen different versions of Jesus in the clouds and real pictures, not the manufactured one. And I go, well, some look more like Christ than the others. I'm okay with those. The ones that I'm not okay with is where suddenly people open up the Bible in the church and they say there was jewels. They found jewels in their Bible, or there was gold leaves falling from the ceiling, or something like. I'm going, oh, come on.
The prosperous.
Yeah, it's like, no, because you can easily explain those away by being, hey, those are man-made. That's a manipulation. But the cloud stuff and the toast, even, I'm more open to that stuff than what happens in the churches sometimes.
When Jesus does come, making a hard U-turn here, when Jesus does come, what's it going to look like in the clouds? What's it going to look like?
Well, he describes it. He comes back on the white horse, and his believers come with him. And so the first time that it's called the rapture, he does not come back here. The trumpet sounds, and then there's a shout of the angel, and every born-again believer on this earth goes to heaven. It's called the rapture, the taking away. So that happens, and there's all that great explanation, like Left Behind series about what happens and so forth.
Yeah.
And then after that period of 7 years of the pre-trib and the tribulation, 7 years, he comes back on a white horse
Okay,
with his believers.
He's on a white horse. Will it be? I mean, this sounds silly. Please don't make fun of me. I mean, is it going to be like a hologram? Is it going to be like a three-dimensional, where he's going to come in from the clouds and he's going to be able to be seen from China, from Russia, from the United States?
The Bible
from
says
the entire
all
world.
eyes will see him.
But when by all eyes, do we mean on our iPhone, or do we seriously? That could be all eyes, or does it mean we're going to be able to? Everybody's going to look up in the sky at the same time in the same place in the sky and see him.
Somebody's going to live stream it. I mean, I'm okay with that.
I think everyone's going to see him with their natural eye. Yeah. That coming back of God to restore the earth after all these years, it's going to be like a front seat presentation. We're all going to see him and all be in awe. AWE. We're going, whoa, this is going to just change the whole everything. So yes.
Yeah. And when he comes down, is there a landing? Is it going to be a nice smooth landing, or is there going to be any turbulence up there? Is he just going to come right on down, and where's he going to land?
Well, I like these conversations.
I know it sounds silly, but it's a serious
good.
question.
And just to tie in what we just talked about, so for everyone that's seen an image or thought they've seen an image of God,
right.
And I'm all for you, but it should draw you closer to Him.
Right.
If not, we're just talking about clouds. Same thing about Jesus Christ coming for his return. What should that do for us? Well, right now, that should motivate me to do as much as I can before he comes home.
Yeah.
It's just like you and I, we grew up, our parents went away for the weekend, and we had the total realm of our house. Yeah. And we did kind of what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But before they came home, we got the house cleaned back up. Yeah. So I think his return is kind of like you and I saying, boy, I know he's coming soon, and we're in those last days, so we need to get our life going. We need to get our Christian work accomplished. So I think it's been good there. When he comes, right, he's going to make his presence known, and he's going to be very well of all that's going on. Will there be a bunch of whirlwinds and all this stuff, as you asked? I don't think so. I think there's going to be an omnipotence there we just cannot describe or even imagine.
Yeah, you're saying this will be after the rapture. I know
Correct.
There are some people who don't necessarily think the rapture is really going to happen. You're one of those who does, and I think you are too as well, Pastor.
Yeah, rapturo is the original word, and it means to be taken away, to be
So the people
caught
he's
up.
coming down for are people who have since repented and realized their mistake, and they're getting a second chance.
Followers of Christ.
They're getting a second chance to make it to heaven, I guess.
Well, he binds Satan, and so then he kind of reconstructs about life on earth, 1,000 years, a millennial reign, and then, right, so he wants to say we could have lived a Christian life on this earth. This is how it's done. And so that's when he comes back to rule the earth, and we as believers will get to rule with him.
So those who have been raptured previously, which was how many years before he comes again?
7.
7. So those who were fortunate enough or had such a strong faith in their belief, they were sent up to heaven 7 years earlier. They're hanging up. We're hanging up there, just having a good old time.
Great time.
We're getting to know Adam. We're getting to know Eve. We're getting to
Moses,
know
all of
Moses.
them.
Tell me about that parting of the sea. That was cool. So we get to learn all that stuff for 7 years, and then I sound really naive, don't I? But I kind of think maybe that is how it works.
Good.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
And then
you can be neighbors with Peter.
So what happens to those who are raptured when Jesus comes down? Do we come back down to earth with him?
Correct.
We do.
Yeah. All the believers come back with him.
Okay.
Even the ones before the rapture, as far as Moses and Joshua and all that, his kingdom comes, and we see that in him. But he's the only one that fights the battle.
Yeah, he comes with a sword.
Yep. And the sword is the word of God.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's not a physical sword. It's the word of God. They use it sharper. Yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left in this segment, but a minute and a half. So the apparition, we should see that as something that's positive until, when it's not an apparition, when it's the real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we see things that I think some people look up in the clouds. Are there any times that people look up in the clouds and they think, wow, he's coming right now. He's coming right now. That'd be kind of cool.
It would. I mean, I look at these cloud formations sometimes, and I'm inspired by them because just clouds, in a sense, because
Beautiful.
of God's creation. It's beautiful, and that's why the scripture says that, you know, God is clearly known in His creation, so there's no excuse for anybody to say there's no God, because just look at the creation: the clouds, the mountains, the oceans, the animals, the child being born. His creation just cries out His name.
You know, it's interesting you said that, because I know I don't spend anywhere near as much time as I should just looking at the surroundings around me and appreciating what there is. Just for the last several weeks, I got a new iPhone,
Ooh.
and I don't really want to deal with it. You know, I haven't been on the iPhone as much.
Good.
And I'm much happier. Yeah, I don't know if you ever have had to take withdrawal, you know, with your iPhone. There's something sort of liberating about it. You know, it's kind of nice not to have that. You just walk around and just keep it in your pocket for emergencies, and it's kind of nice.
There are families that are now refusing to buy their kids phones until they're 18.
Yeah.
You go get one phone, you go get a phone when you're 18, because life is different without us constantly looking at phones and Instagram and posting my dinner and look what I had for lunch. And, you know, I don't even look at Facebook anymore. There's only two reasons why I ever do anything on Facebook. I post my family and I post my views on
Yeah,
Christ.
spend more time looking at the clouds, looking for images of Jesus.
Yeah.
You'll be much better off. We're going to take a break. I want to talk about this Jeff Bezos wedding, which is just over the top. We'll be right back.
Rebel religion in the news. Rebel religion in the news.
A man can spend his money the way he chooses. Okay, we got $237 billion like Jeff Bezos does, and he marries his bride, Lauren. Is it Lauren?
Lauren Sanchez?
Lauren Sanchez. All right. That's fine. He spent $50 million of his fortune on a wedding.
All?
$50 million. You know, it's really...
Is it 50 million or 500 million?
No, 50 million is what it was.
Okay.
50 million.
Eesh.
And I just wondered, I got to ask you, you've been to, how many weddings have you handled in the
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Obviously, I doubt that you ever had one which was $50 million.
You know,
what was the largest one you
Not
had?
even close.
Okay.
Not even close.
Well, what was a wedding which was the most maybe elaborate, extravagant wedding you ever handled?
I'd probably say maybe $40,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, beautiful roses on every pew end, the runner, and so most of the decorations, just over the top, and then the meal, just not just having cupcakes or hors d'oeuvres, but a full sit-down meal. So and a good host of guests there. So.
Is it possible to have too grand of a wedding where you spend too much on it? And can you generally tell whether or not a wedding is with a marriage might go well? I would sense the ones which are real humble are probably the ones that are going to last the longest. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Maybe I'm being very judgmental here, but I don't mean to be.
Yeah. To me, getting married is more about your marriage than just a wedding activity.
Show.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the wedding, probably the vast majority of all weddings last less than an hour.
Right.
So all this money for 40 minutes compared to the rest of your life together on this earth, I think I'd rather be investing my life on this earth rather than a 40-minute program or show. Yeah. And I'll give my view, but it is true and valid, is that weddings used to be very simple and humble and things like that because there was a man and woman coming together, and that was the excitement of life. Well, in our new modern culture, which has been around for years, we already live together. We already been intimate together. We've all done that together. So, okay, so we leave our house, we go someplace, we get dressed together, we put on different clothes, and then walk down the aisle and get married and go back home to the same place and be together. So it's no big thing.
Yeah.
So now they're making it elaborate by let's do this and let's have a destination wedding, and that word never existed 30 years ago.
When Jesus went to the wedding in Cana, do we know much more? Was that a very elaborate wedding during his day? Jesus liked to go to parties. He liked to go to big feasts and gatherings. He enjoyed that
Loved
kind of
it.
thing. So he's not really. I'm not sure though he would have really enjoyed going to this one. Is it possible that Jesus would have said, this wedding is just a little too much even for for me? I don't want to speak for Jesus. I don't want you to either. But what was the wedding in Cana like? Was that similar to what Bezos had, or was it more low key than that?
Well, definitely it had to be more low key because of the culture, what we had available and things like that.
But for its time.
But I do know that it was a good crowd there. Mm-hmm. I do know that as he turned the water into wine, it was like 120 to 140 gallons. So that must tell you that it was a good sized wedding. He never turned the water into inebriating wine. He turned the water into like a grape juice wine, very fine, very, very good. And people were astonished by it, but thou hast kept the good wine until now.
Yeah.
And the whole truth in that matter is every miracle Jesus did was a physical, literal miracle. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He healed the impotent man. He turned the water into wine. But every one of those miracles had a very deep, I would call, spiritual truth. Just like the way he has kept his good wine to now. Jesus always saves his best for last. So his very first miracle, which happened to be at a wedding, was a miracle of hope. Like, if you ask me into your life, you will have the best life ever. And so there's some
You'll
truth
never
there.
hunger, never thirst.
Exactly. Think about that. So, but it was a neat wedding, and the wedding planner blew it because he ran out of wine.
Yeah.
And so even Jesus' mother said, Jesus, got to do something about it. And he had never done a miracle yet.
Yeah.
But he thought, what a better time to help a family, a second family, the two come together, all the guests. It's a joyous occasion. Let's not walk away and complain they ran out of this and I'm thirsty. So he took care of it.
I'm pretty sure they didn't run out of wine at the Bezos wedding. I'm
No.
pretty confident they were able to get through okay.
No, but I was thinking that it's also the first miracle was kind of that representation of us being like the bride of Christ. His first miracle was very representation of our relationship with him. The other thing I was going to say is that I've done quite a few weddings, not in the hundreds, probably in the 20s or so. I've been to one wedding where I officiated, and it's probably $100,000 wedding, and I thought that was a lot.
Wow.
It is a lot.
From the venue that they chose, I knew it was like 20 grand, and the cars parked outside were Mercedes and Jaguars and that kind of stuff. And it was a beautiful wedding. It went by the book. It was very beautiful. It was nice. But the best wedding I think I've ever officiated, one of the two best ones, was in our church. It probably cost $500, and it was for our deacon Curtis.
Wow.
When he got married.
I love Curtis.
Just a few months ago.
He's a great guy.
Unfortunately, he lost his first wife. She passed away, and he was by himself for 6 years when God sent him another beautiful, godly woman. And it was probably the most joyful wedding.
Yeah.
It was, and there was nothing to it. It was just these two beautiful people joining together with Christ as God is that third strand in the rope. It was just so pleasing. and joyful.
You were ahead of my question. That was going to be my question. Other than your own wedding, what is the one wedding you remember the most?
Curtis's.
You told me yours. What was yours, Pastor?
Well, I'd have to say we just did a wedding of two people in our church who had just kind of a rough life, and already had children here, did not know God, were pretty much on their own now, trying to struggle through this world. And then they came to church, had their lives changed at church. They met, and you just saw them growing together and dating, and it was the cutest thing there was. Mm-hmm. And they got married this last week, and it was just wholesome. Like God restored this life, and God restored this life, and so I'll give it to you this way. Yeah. That's, and I've had many like that, but that just happened this week. So reminding. The second one was my own daughter And only because I walked down an aisle, no big arrangements, no big decorations, no big meal. But here was a pure young lady and a pure young man meeting for the very first time and now giving them lives to each other. I remember people coming to me saying, Pastor, what a beautiful wedding. This is good. What a beautiful wedding. Not the decoration, not the program, just two people doing right. And I just said, that's the way God wanted it.
Yeah.
That's the way God wanted marriage. Just two people giving their lives to each other and serving God. And it does give you a sense of, wow, that's amazing. Wholesome, I think, is a word that comes to my mind. Just wow.
You can really sense the Spirit of God in those types of very humble weddings. Not that can happen in a big, huge party. It can, but the more humble weddings, the small, intimate family and friends, they're just beautiful.
And the happiness with each other and the happiness with their loved ones right there, not the happiness of we're going to go to Cancun for 2 weeks and we're going to go do this and this and this. It's not in the event, it's in the relationship.
Yes.
That's so big.
Yeah. The issue is not the event or the show. The issue is, are you getting married with God's blessing and two people coming in union the way the Bible describes it? It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to sit here and say terrible things about the Jeff Bezos and his bride. We want them to have a successful marriage. Of course we do. But sometimes I will say it's always more interesting when people expect you to zig and you zag instead. It's so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And I would have found it much more interesting if Jeff Bezos and his bride had a simple wedding.
Yeah.
I would have thought, well, now that is cool. Because that's dog bite. That's man bites dog. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a whole different turn. It's a much more interesting story. Dog bites man is not interesting.
Yeah.
Man biting dog, that's a little more interesting.
Yeah, if you
I
had
think would rather have seen that.
If you had something humble on the beach, I think you raised a good point. The whole point of the economics of that kind of a wedding, as opposed to the spiritual union, even if they don't have faith, if the union. I've been to weddings, and I just wanted to mention this real quick, that were so over the top that the families went into debt.
Yeah.
I know one family that mortgaged their house to pay for their daughter's wedding, and I'm going,
Oh, gee.
that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Or credit cards are maxed out. Because I've always dreamed I wanted a destination wedding, or I wanted a wedding on the beach with the string quartet playing behind me, and and they're so in debt after the wedding.
And there used to be a TV show called "Say Yes to the Dress," and if you remember that, well, Mom, I want this dress. Okay, we only got $2,000 for the dress, which to me itself is a lot of money to wear one time, but. Oh, this one's $10,000. This is the one I really want. And it's like, gosh, just take the one for $2,000 and be grateful. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, they just overextended themselves, and it's actually hurt the marriage because they end up the marriage in debt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not about the economics. It really is what we're talking about. It's about that spiritual union between a man and a woman blessed by God.
We have less than 2 minutes in the show. I want to find out what's going on over at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church before we sign off. Pastor?
It's been a great summer already, and just 2 weeks ago, we had our 71st anniversary, and for the very first time, we held our evening service out in the park, and it was amazing.
Oh, that's right. That was at Hooker Oak Park.
Hooker Oak Park, and we had just I don't really care about numbers, but about 300 people showed up. And the music out there just resounded every place. And then preaching the Word of God. And then people knew about it, and they asked about being baptized. And so we actually baptized right there in the 1 mile, I guess it is, or 5 mile, whichever one it was.
Yeah.
But just a wonderful time. This last week, we just got done with Kids Week and had over 130 children coming on a nightly basis and learning the Word of God. Parental guidelines and teaching for all the parents. Kids were busy over here. Mom and Dad got to go to sessions to learn how to be a better parent. So just great things, and looking forward to it. We're right now embarking the month of July about just putting a Bible in the hands of 5,000 people in our town. And so that's our big push. So looking forward to it.
Pastor Jim Roll, thank you. We always love having you on the show.
I love being here.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. By the way, Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, 9, 10, and 11 o'clock on Sunday. They also have other services throughout the week. Very active church. You can find them over on Garner Lane and pvbaptist.org.
Got it.
pvbaptist.org. Finally memorized that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Take good care, and so long.
Rebel religion